What's going on, everybody? It is your host, Dr. Splash, resident and king of Yancey Street. We are doing a classic versus battle topic slash matchup. Nightwing from DC Comics versus Daredevil from Marvel Comics. If these two street hero legends were to clash, who would win? I'm going to break down both characters in a way that I feel will give the viewers enough information on both to kind of understand where I'm coming from, and then I will get into the breakdown of who I think wins. If you love content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. 300 plus likes, and I will happily continue to roll out versus battle matchups. Now, getting back on topic, because to be honest, we don't have to do a crazy intro. You can just check the video description and comment section for any information on how to support the channel. This matchup, it's been building up for years. Like, it's something my subscribers have asked for multiple occasions consistently throughout the years. So first up, we're going to talk about Daredevil, the man without fear. Matt Murdock, in his childhood, was afflicted with a horrific injury that took his eyesight. However, the chemicals that blinded him also granted him superhuman senses. Lost one sense to get the bag with others. This includes his famous radar sense, one that is so potent even Spider-Man has acknowledged in some ways it's superior to even the spider sense. Now, Daredevil, as a youth, was raised by characters like Stick, a renowned character with similar afflictions as Daredevil, that takes characters like the young Matt Murdock and turns them into absolute weapons, working on sharpening the weaknesses while absolutely perfecting the strengths of what they have. Through this training, as a young boy, Murdock would grow up to become a high caliber martial artist, as well as he was raised by a prize fighter fighting Jack Murdock, who of course was a boxer who met his end because he didn't play by the mafia's rules, which you hate to fucking see. But this toughness, this ability to bite down on the mouthpiece and walk forward, throw punches anyway, this is a trait that defined the legacy of Daredevil. As the man without fear, he eventually took up the mantle of being the protector of Hell's Kitchen when no one else could, fighting off crime and fighting off the evil that plagues his city and the streets he loves dearly. Now, in terms of what he's capable of, Daredevil has always been one of the top tier, quote, street tier characters within Marvel Comics. Thanks to his senses and his training since a youth, Daredevil is one of the most intimidating acrobatics we see in Marvel. And what I mean by intimidating acrobatics is he's supposed to be human, but he's keeping up easily with Spider-Man in terms of the athletics and acrobatics, moving around the city, moving from locations, darting in and out, the agility. This is mostly due to a combination of both his training, the way he uses his equipment. For example, his billy clubs, he can use them to swing around the city as they connect to each other. His whole loadout is kind of based around complementing his natural gifts he's honed throughout the years. And this athleticism and agility is sharpened by the radar sense, allowing him to simply react faster than others are able to do. When you take peak athleticism, peak agility, and you take peak martial arts, I mean, this is someone in Daredevil who has wins over Kingpin, albeit not consistently, but it's still notable because Kingpin can easily go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. And then you look at, he's bullied Punisher when he's had to. He's forced Iron Fist in a martial arts contest to have to use chi. Daredevil is the same guy that walked up in Wakanda and whooped Shuri in front of her people. Like, he's a monster in hand-to-hand combat. Mostly known for things like boxing, judo, mixing in some high-level kickboxing as well. He does have relative skill to some of the highest tiers, including Captain America, the likes of Wolverine, Iron Fist. This man's so tough, too. He's boxed Luke Cage. Like Luke Cage said, Do you think you can beat me up, Matt? Like, for real? And Daredevil said, yeah, I actually fucking think I can. Put on the gloves and went to war. He's boxing Luke Cage? What the hell is it? This man's a big psycho. And I want to address this before we break off into the Nightwing section. When we talk about Daredevil, we also kind of have to mention in recent runs, he's basically been like a soldier of God. He's been going around fighting the deadly sins. I don't really see that being that particularly applicable in this matchup. Nightwing's not some demon or some sin or even a Punisher that has to be purged of this evil, right? I don't ultimately see that be a factor. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before we move on. But overall, due to his high-level martial arts training, his radar senses, his gear and equipment that allows him to, again, take hits from characters like Luke Cage, which naturally is able to complement what he does as a physical fighter. With his training, martial arts, the acrobatics, radar, all of these things, Daredevil is one of the toughest characters to fight among the street tiers. But today, he has no small task, and he has someone equally as troubling in the name of Nightwing. So, who is Nightwing? Well, Dick Grayson is the OG and the one we most associate with Robin in DC Comics. Grayson grew up among famous acrobats who were killed. Famously, the Flying Graysons, and this left Dick to be orphaned, taken in by Bruce Wayne, who of course raises child soldiers. So he was immediately began his training as Robin to fight crime. Now, Nightwing would not gain the moniker of Nightwing until later on in life. Although he was the OG Robin, eventually people grow up and move on. Dick Grayson at that point had become such an expert in all things Batman-like in nature, whether detective work, actual fighting skill. He's trained with some of the best in the world in DC Comics, including his own father figure in Bruce. On top of this, Bruce was taking on other Robins, more child soldiers to be used in the streets of Gotham. And therefore it left room for Grayson to move on. This saw him taking up his own city in Bloodhaven, protecting it like Batman would in Gotham. He also has other notable stints to his name, including serving with the Titans, which, in my opinion, probably he's most famous for. But he also served as a special agent for the spy unit known as Spiral. Now, looking at what he's capable of, Nightwing is, like I said, kind of relative to Batman. That is someone among the Robins most associated with being able to press Batman. I mean, Damian, to be fair, like when his time comes, he's going to be the GOAT. But Dick Grayson's always had a unique blend of the best traits of Batman while bringing his own traits to the table. While he's not as physically strong or as imposing as Batman, he is quicker than Batman. He is a better acrobat than Batman. Obviously, that's where his background started, and it was only heightened by his training. Through the training as well, as a special agent with Batman, with other characters like the Richard Dragons of the world, the Lady Shivas that he's been around. This tier of training he's so familiar with that literally as a kid, he's fighting characters like Deathstroke. That's fucking insane. He also has high-level gear, his own version of batarangs, sonic weapons, EMPs, flashbangs, smoke, knockout gas. He also has his Excrema sticks, which he's very famous for. And again, while he's not Batman, Nightwing's been able to develop his own unique, fluid and agile fighting style that makes him almost damn near as scary as Batman, because he has this immense background behind him, while also having his own unique style. Nightwing has, in his time with the Titans as well, taken on plenty of characters that we would call way beyond his weight class. This kind of what makes it fun with street tiers, because they can box out of their class so much. Nightwing is no exception, taking on metahumans all the time. Motherfucker was participating in Dark Crisis, okay? This man was fighting Deathstroke. Like, it was insane. And he does shit like that all the time, because honestly, when you hang out with Batman, you kind of have to be able to get down like that. While not necessarily known for being as intense of a detective as Batman or even a Tim Drake, I do think the intelligence of Dick Grayson is slept on. He was a long time, tactical leader for the Teen Titans, who, of course, is basically the Junior Justice League. On top of this, his time with Spiral, I think, is something we need to note, as this is about as high level you can get in terms of spy agencies and working in the field of espionage in comic books. So not only is he a high caliber fighter with elite gear, he also has an intensive background that shows his wild intelligence as a character. Overall, Nightwing is one of the most lethal members of the Bat family in terms of you just don't want to run into them in a dark alley and you just jaywalked or committed a crime. You probably get beat the fuck up, okay? But every character has someone that just gives them a great stylistic matchup, and I think that's what Nightwing's dealing with today. So let's get into the breakdown. Daredevil versus Nightwing. If you haven't subbed already, you better do so now. So this is an interesting battle in the way of, it's one that when I passively think about it, I don't really have an opinion on the winner on the surface level, right? Like if you were to pass by me on the street and you're like, oh shit, that's Dr. Splash. Tell me who you think wins, Daredevil versus Nightwing. And I'd probably be like, I don't know, man. Shit's probably a toss-up. Both of them are capable of crazy shit. And both of them are incredibly athletic, incredibly skilled. I don't know. It's a fucking toss-up. So let's get into where I think there's notable advantages for each character. Daredevil. What's the first advantage I think of for him? I think of his toughness. As tough as Nightwing is, Daredevil is almost tougher than everybody. Like, this almost isn't a knock on... It really isn't. It's not a knock on Nightwing at all. Daredevil is just a different level of fucking tough. For someone that's not crazy, he's insanely tough. And when I say crazy, I mean like a Moon Knight type of tough. Where Moon Knight's just too fucking crazy to be hurt or stay down. That's not how Daredevil is. He's just walking forward. Like a man of God just thinks he can keep going. Okay? The man without fear. I think his toughness stands out. I think that radar sense stands out as well. That is an obvious advantage in combat, especially when anticipating sneaky moves from Nightwing. Nightwing, being a finesse fighter, is constantly trying to get the edge over you. This would be something that's highly advantageous. So I think those two things immediately jump out to me for Daredevil. Now let's talk about the notable advantages on the Nightwing side. Nightwing, in my opinion, absolutely clears in equipment. I know Daredevil's equipment is tailor-made to his fighting style, and it does complement him in a way. Not disagreeing with that. However, when we're talking about gear that's game changer, it absolutely goes to Nightwing. I mean, even if he somehow figures out that Daredevil's blind, right, and is relying on some kind of radar sense, other senses besides the visuals, Nightwing has plenty of equipment to fuck with Daredevil at that point. So I would say his equipment matches and far exceeds Daredevil's. Clear advantage there for Nightwing. I would also say, in a way, Nightwing's background in training is a little bit advantageous. Now, Daredevil, of course, by no means is a slouch in skill. And I would even say he's close in skill to Nightwing. Perhaps even relative. But I'm also speaking to the experience and who they've faced. And I think ultimately the best way to summarize that for Nightwing's advantage is Nightwing has seen more Daredevil tiers and arguably more versatile fighters that are that tier than Daredevil has seen Nightwings. That's just my opinion. Like, the fact Nightwing is fighting Batman every day. Like, if you can fight Batman every day, if you train with him every day, if that's the caliber you're brawling at and you're operating at, that, in my opinion, is an advantage to someone like a Daredevil. Like, when you look at Daredevil, the people he's fighting usually, he's fighting more simple, not as well-rounded fighters. Kingpin, love him to death. That's a big boy that's brawling. You know, you look at a Tombstone type characters, they're thugs. You look at someone like the brawlers in New York, the ones that break into the different jewelry shops and whatnot. These are simple characters that are pretty straightforward with how they're fighting. They're just swinging and banging. They're using one type of style. I just feel like the variance in which Nightwing's been trained and dealt with is a little greater than Daredevil. On top of Nightwing gets stories like Teen Titans, he just gets a lot more advantages to do crazier shit. So I think those two advantages automatically stand out to me for Nightwing. So with the advantages out the way, how do I see this playing out? Well, I'm not sold on Nightwing figuring out the radar sense and no vision early. There's a lot of characters like Hawkeye and others who have tangled with Daredevil and just did not know his ass was blind. They've like tried to flashbang him. Even Dr. Doom was like, I don't think he's blind. I think he's trolling. So I'm hard pressed to immediately go, oh yeah. Within a few strikes, Nightwing's gonna be like, oh shit, this motherfucker's blind and he's using radar sense. Let me discombobulate him. I don't see that happening at all. I just don't favor that. I think this will just be a straight up fight. I think they're going to go back and forth. I think Nightwing is plenty agile enough to keep up of Daredevil, the heavy-handed boxing style as well that he's real well known for. I think eventually this fight is going to get into equipment though. Nightwing ultimately far outclasses Daredevil in equipment. And maybe he's not as tough as Daredevil, but he is as skilled and he is as quick. He should be able to get away and start implementing the equipment in a dangerous way. Like, I think that's ultimately what's going to shift the tides of the battle. He can throw more shit at Daredevil than Daredevil can throw at him, and everything else is close enough to kind of mitigate that. So ultimately, to me, I probably favor Nightwing highest of difficulties, but if you say Daredevil wins, I ain't mad at you at all. That's the fucking man without fear, all right? That's a big dog. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I had a ton of fun doing this. This was an amazing battle. Let me know which classic matchups we got to do next or which new era hype matchups we got to do. But anyways, it's been your host, Dr. Splash. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, it's Yancey Street, bitches.